and Gary is an Inequality economist and also a former trader. And I asked him whether he thought this was enough.
Well, I think it's something. Obviously, people out there who are on low wages will be grateful. But when we look at what's happening to costs for ordinary people, increases in food costs, fuel costs, petrol costs, and especially people who might have been on universal credit, seen that cut as well, I think people are going to find that life's going to get harder in the future. And I think if we put this in the context of a coronavirus crisis, which has seen billionaire wealth go up by over £100 billion, I think there's a legitimate question to be asked here about whether more needs to be done for the ordinary working people of this country. Well,
particularly, I think, given many people, rather like the government, are in debt and maybe don't always get the number of hours per week that they need. I mean, it still strikes me that it must be very, very difficult to live on a wage of £9.18 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a letter with the group today to the Chancellor to say we need to rethink the raising of national insurance and ordinary working people, and perhaps shift that burden towards richer people. And I've had so many messages today from people saying, thanks for writing this letter, because we're out here working every day, struggling just to put food on the table, and it's just getting harder. And I think we need to look at that and ask, why have they raised taxes on ordinary people? And national insurance specifically excludes taxing billionaires. And the question has to be asked, our Chancellor's family are billionaires. Is this one of the reasons why Rishi Sunak has chosen to tax ordinary people instead of billionaires who've seen their wealth explode during the crisis?
Do you think this is likely to gain Rishi Sunak any popularity amongst those people who it affects, or will it be seen rather more cynically, simply as a token increase, rather like many workers in the NHS saw the increase that they received some time ago?
Well, I think a lot of people are, people who are on the tough end of things here. They can see that they're being given with one hand and taken away with the other. It's exactly as I've said, universal credit has been cut from the families most in need. National insurance has been risen on, that starts on workers of £9,000 a year. And at the same time, billionaires have been excluded. The message I want to tell these people, because I think ordinary people, they see how hard it is for them. But what they don't realise is just how much money billionaires have made in this crisis. The top three families in this country, the Mittals, the Rubens and the Blavatniks, increased their wealth by £20 billion during the pandemic. That's £20,000 million. And the national insurance rise is supposed to raise £10 billion a year. So this tax, which has been risen from ordinary people, they could have risen that twice over from three families and made them just as rich as they were before the pandemic, and had enough money left to buy Cristiano Ronaldo 35 times.
If indeed you'd want to do that, I suppose some people would, if they were interested in football. I'm not personally. But is there therefore a case for a very simple, old-fashioned suggestion that the Labour Party would have echoed on goodness knows how many occasions in its existence, of making taxes higher for the very richest and increasing maybe either universal credit or the national living wage by more than he has?
Yeah, look, first things first, go back and revisit this national insurance rise. This is low-paid workers paying tax and shift that focus to the wealthiest. At the moment, we're taxing workers, and the very wealthiest people, billionaires, are sometimes paying lower rates than their cleaners. This is not acceptable, and it leads to a situation where ordinary people are seeing money sucked out of their pockets and put into the pockets of billionaires. But what does that do to the economy? Ordinary people would have spent that in businesses, local shops. Billionaires are just going to use that to buy our mums' houses and push the house prices up.
What about something you mentioned earlier on, and that is universal credit, which, as far as I know, if you're earning, pretty much nothing per month, you get £400, in the region of £400 a month. Now, you see, once again, in terms of a social security payment, as we used to perhaps call it, and I know it's not quite the same system these days, that strikes me as very little.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to make clear, because I know some people are aware of this, but some people might not be. A huge percentage, I think it's about 40%, maybe even more, of universal credit recipients are working people. And they have to receive this because wages are so low for so many people and living costs so high that they can't afford, even though they're working, to take care of a family. This is a ridiculous system and it needs to be changed. Straight away, we should look at the taxes these people pay and we should reduce them. Straight away. The fact that they're paying national insurance at £9,000, you cannot support a family on £9,000. Take these guys out of the tax system, reduce the taxes on ordinary, hard-working people, and move the taxes to billionaires. This should be classic common sense. But unfortunately, our Chancellor's family are billionaires, and if you are a billionaire, you probably prefer that tax to be paid by builders and cleaners.
What about, let's think about it from the other side of the coin, if you like. What about small employers who may argue that they can't afford this increase in the national living wage?
Well, I mean, I think this goes back down to the economy. You know, we need to support small employers. But at the moment, because we're sucking spending power away from ordinary people, we're making it hard for these small employers as well. But the question ultimately is that who is it who has the money here? You mentioned the government debt, right? Government debt, as you know, has increased by £450 billion during the pandemic. That's enormous. That's £10,000 per person. Okay, well, who do we owe that money to? You know, we don't owe it to Mars, obviously. Whose wealth has increased? It's the billionaires. It's the super rich. You know, it's not rocket science, okay? Government is struggling. Ordinary people are struggling. All of that money, all of that debt is to the billionaires. This is where the money is. This is where the wealth is. This is where the spending power is. If you want a strong economy, you have to find a way to tax them. I know I'm nailing the hammer on the head here, but you know, I'm an economist. I've made lots of money betting on these things. If we don't find a way to tax the billionaires, it's going to be a very difficult economy for the rest of us.
And just finally, tell me, Gary, how you feel this will play in the House when it's announced tomorrow in the budget. How will the Labour Party respond?
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not too well connected with the Labour Party. I know there's lots of different people with lots of different views. You know, I would imagine, of course, they will support a rise. I would suggest that they question whether this rise will be enough to counter all of the different missiles that are coming at ordinary working families here. And I would suggest that they say, yes, it's good to raise the minimum wage, but it's not going to be enough, and we need to do more to help the ordinary, hard-working families of this country.
All right, that was Gary Stevenson, an inequality economist and former trader, discussing this morning on LBC the rise that will be announced tomorrow of the national living wage to £9.50 if you are over 23. Do you feel that that is enough? Do you welcome the rise? Are you somebody who feels undervalued by your employer? Are you somebody who's struggling to make ends meet? 0345 6060 973. Back in a few moments' time.
Housing could be so much more affordable, wages could be so much higher, and we could have so many more options in how we live our lives. Some of them put a lot of money into paying economists and think tanks to tell you that inequality is important for the economy. That is not true.